Hello and welcome back to my channel, The Midwife Life. I'm not gonna lie, I've tried to film this video 4 times, past 2 weeks. Every time I've tried to film this video, it's just not gone to plan. Like, I don't really understand why, but yeah, I do apologise for being a bit MIA the last couple of weeks and not uploading. I'm really hoping that this time I can get it and I can film it and it'll be uploaded next week. This is going to be me talking to you all about my experience on placement on the antenatal ward and in triage. And I've got to get ready for the day because why not? I'm going to do a little bit of makeup, make myself feel a bit more alive. And I'm really hoping I can get this video filmed because I've already tried so many times the last couple of weeks and it's just not happened. So yes, I do also want to say this is my experience. It's not necessarily a really positive video, but I just want to put it out there that this is my experience, and just because my experience wasn't necessarily as good as I hoped it would be doesn't necessarily mean yours is going to be bad or negative. See, I don't want to scare you into thinking that antenatal ward and triage is really bad, because it's not. I actually had a really good time in the end, but there was just moments where I just kind of just couldn't do it. And I do want to say that that's normal to feel like that on some placements, kind of feel that overwhelming sensation of, oh my god, why am I here, what am I doing? Also, apologies for the background, renovations, decorating, revamping the house, lots going on, hence the background. And I haven't made my bed this morning, I probably should have made my bed. Okay, let's just get started, shall we? So after I finished Christmas break, sorry, I have a mirror here, so if I'm looking this way, that's why. I was on antenatal ward and triage for 3 weeks after I finished my Christmas break, so the beginning of January. And my first shift was a night shift on triage, which overall was a pretty good shift. Like, I worked with some lovely midwives, some lovely WSA. Overall, yeah, the shift was fine. It was a night shift, which kind of set the tone for the whole placement, basically. I'm not a fan of night shifts. I don't mind them when they're all in like a row, so if I've got 3 in a row, because you can get yourself into a routine, but mine always seem to be very sporadic and very all over the place. So I'll have like a night shift and then a couple of days off and then a long day and then a night shift. So it's, yeah, very kind of higgledy-piggledy, and you don't end up getting a routine, but it's fine. Like I say, overall the shift was really good. I learned quite a lot. I learned how to answer the phone. Like, obviously I knew how to answer the phone, but how to reassure women and good communication, and then what happens when they come in. So like, we have these TAC forms. I don't know what they're called in other trusts, if they're the same or not, but you fill them in, you get their history and kind of their symptoms when they actually arrive on triage, and if their symptoms have improved since they rang or something like that. And then, yeah, so you triage them, basically. That is what triaging is. You get their information, you do their OBS, and you put them on the CTG monitor. So I did learn a lot about CTGs. So I feel more confident with CTGs because that placement was a lot of putting them on women, reading the reading the traces and stuff. So yeah, I do feel a lot more confident in those. I did a couple of speculums, amnisures, which is to check if the waters have broke. So yeah, I did learn quite a lot, and like I say, the first shift wasn't too bad. I did come away feeling quite overwhelmed, which I think is quite normal after your first shift on any placement, because you're learning a lot of new information. You've got to remember everything that you've learnt so far previously. Just a lot of new information to try and remember and retain into my little tiny brain. So I did come away feeling quite overwhelmed, and I think especially from triage, because it is women coming in with potential problems or issues and concerns that they have. So it's not high risk because you get low risk coming in, but it's just a bit more intense, I guess. I don't really know how to explain it. I hope that makes sense. I was kind of a bit stressed. I was a bit like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. But I kind of feel like that every time after a first shift on any placement, so I knew it was quite normal for me, and it is quite normal, like I say, for anybody to feel overwhelmed after their first shift. And then I must say, shit hit the fan. My walk from my car back home was very, very stressful. I had a phone call from my mum who I'd obviously been with over Christmas because students were allowed home for Christmas and then had to go back to uni obviously for placement and stuff. She rang me and said, I've tested positive for coronavirus, and my heart just was like, what the I was like, what am I supposed to do with that? She was like, you have to self-isolate for 10 days, and I was like, I can't self-isolate for 10 days. I've got placement. Oh, what am I going to tell them? Like, what am I going to tell the hospital? I potentially just put everybody at risk. Like, anyway, I was negative. It turned out I was negative later on, but I didn't know this at the time, so I was very, very stressed. And obviously I then get contacted by Track and Trace saying I had to self-isolate for 10 days. And I was just like, oh my God. The main stresses were making up the hours, because obviously due to being pulled out last year during the first lockdown, I was already behind on hours. So I was like, how am I going to make up another set of, I don't know what it turned out to be in the end, 4 shifts I think I missed. But I didn't know how many I was going to miss. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I was really stressed about that. And then obviously I was feeling quite overwhelmed in triage anyway, and I thought, if I'm going to miss valuable hours in triage and antenatal, like, I'm going to feel even more overwhelmed than I already am. So I was a little bit stressed. Anyway, fast forward 10 days. My first shift back was again another night shift, so I was a bit like, really? Just give me a long day, for goodness sake. And this night shift did not make me feel any better about the situation. The actual shift wasn't too bad. Like, as a night shift goes, it wasn't too bad. It was more the learning opportunities, because I think overall we had 2 women come in. This was on triage as well. 2 women come in, and I think maybe 1 or 2 phone calls. Like, it was a really, really quiet night. And the people I worked with, like the midwives I worked with, were really nice, and it was a really nice night. But like I say, in terms of learning opportunities, it was not very good, and didn't really put me at ease in terms of like learning anything or missing 10 days. Like, it's okay, I will learn some stuff in the shifts that I've got left. But that's nobody's fault. Like, it's just luck of the draw that we had 2 women come in. It was just a little bit annoying, but it can't be helped. Like, some nights are just like that. I had 3 shifts left, which were all on the ward, so that was kind of my triage over, and I was a bit like, well, I really haven't learned a lot, to be honest. Do not feel confident in triage at all. Yeah, it was just, I was a bit like, Ugh. And I had been in contact with the people in charge of shifts and like placement and things, and they were trying to get me some shifts, but the 3rd year started the week after I finished. So it was kind of a bit like all the midwives already had students the next week. So I was on a reading week. So I thought, okay, that's fine, I'll make them up. But everyone had students already, so it was a little bit stressful. My last 3 shifts were all on the ward. I had my first one with my assessor, and I did try and get her to sign me off or like write something in my book, which she did. She wrote something. But she said, I can't sign you off because I've worked 1 shift with you, and then the other shift I wasn't with you, and that was your other shift. Like, that was the last shift that you had. And I don't know what you've been like on the ward, because this is my first shift with you. Like, it doesn't tell me anything about you. Like, it doesn't, like, from what I've seen, you're good, but I haven't seen a lot. Does that make sense? So then I was stressed about getting signed off. And overall that shift was good again. Like, I didn't ever really have a bad shift. It was just the self-isolation kind of just set the tone and just made me stressed, basically, which then had an impact on my experience, if that makes sense. So I got her to write something in my book, which was fine. She wrote in the back of it, and I was like, okay, well, at least I've got something from her if I don't get it signed off. Like, if I'm not signed off, I've got something written down to say I was there and some of the skills that I did learn and picked up. And then the last 2 shifts were with this lovely midwife. She was a bit younger, or one of the younger midwives, and I like working with them. Like, I like working with everybody, but they're just a bit more relatable. Like, I think she was newly qualified or just band 6. So she kind of knew what I was going through and was a bit, I could relate to her. She got me to do a lot of stuff and asked me lots of questions to test my knowledge and things. So yeah, it was really good. The last 2 shifts with her were nice. However, this is probably where my bad experience kind of not stems from, because obviously I had the self-isolation, but this is the point in my head where I think, right, I don't like antenatal. And it's what she wrote in my book. I got her to write something in my book so that I had something from her as well. But, it's just, I was just not in a very good headspace, I'm not gonna lie. My head was just not in a good space. And she wrote something and I think I just took it to heart too much, which, yeah, I was just being oversensitive, because when I read it to my family and friends, they were like, what is actually wrong with what she said? Like, I don't understand how that could be perceived as negative. It was one specific phrase that she said, and it was about independence. I can't remember what it was exactly, but it just kind of made me feel like she thought I was shit, which is not at all what she meant. But I just took it to heart. I was very sensitive, I guess. I don't know how to explain. I think it's just because I hadn't had enough time on the ward, so I felt very behind and very like I didn't know what I was doing, and then that made me feel like everybody thought I didn't know what I was doing. Am I making any sense at all? I don't even know at this point. This is why I've had to film this thing about 5 different times. It's like the bad things always outweigh the good things, so one bad thing said just weighs on my mind a lot. Like I say, I'm just over dramatic, but that's how it made me feel, and I know that she didn't mean it that way at all, and she just gave me a pointer to develop on, but I don't know, you can't help the way something makes you feel. So yeah, I came away from that shift feeling really, really deflated. I rang my mum in the car park of the hospital and cried for a good hour and a half. Real. I just felt like I wanted to quit. I really just felt like I couldn't do it anymore, and I just thought, right, that's it. I can't do this. I'm quitting. I'm done. Which is a bit dramatic, really. But some days, you just have those days where you just think, what am I doing? Why am I here? That's it. I'm done. Which is totally normal to have those days. You have those days when you qualified, during your training. Like, it is a stressful job. It is a really hard thing to learn. And I just was having one of those. And yeah, so I was feeling a bit stressed. Now I was on a reading week. I still hadn't been able to get any shifts to make up the hours. And I was just like, So anyway, bored a little bit. I had a phone call from the person in charge of organising placements at my trust, and she managed to get me some shifts during my reading week with a midwife whose 3rd year student went off sick, so she didn't have a student this week. So I was like, oh, brilliant. She was really, really lovely. I say this about everybody, but everyone honestly I worked with so far in my whole training so far has been lovely. Like, I haven't got a bad word to say about anyone yet, so this is good. And yeah, I learnt a lot. They were all on triage. I had 2 days, and then my last one was a night with my assessor so I could get my interview done. These shifts built my confidence so much. I learnt a lot. The first 2 shifts were really good. They were days, so they were a lot better, like a lot more busy. They were busier, so there was a lot more going on, a lot more learning to be done, which was really, really good. I've done my makeup now, so I don't know what we're going to do now. I learnt a lot more this week. These shifts just made me feel a lot better about the whole situation. Yeah, what was I doing? So I was doing OBS, CTGs again, built my confidence with CTG traces, and what else? Talking to the doctors, like doing handovers. So when a woman comes in, they more often than not have to have a review by the doctor after you've done like the CTG monitor, the OBS, and got her history and stuff. You have to get her reviewed by the doctor, and they say, oh yeah, this is what we've got to do. She can go home, or we have to do this and this, and then she can go home, and then they basically tell you what has happened. Oh, I've got pins and needles from sitting down too long. Oh, can't feel my feet. After these 2 shifts, I felt a lot better, a lot more confident, and I thought, you know what, actually, I can do this. I was still a bit stressed because there's still a lot to learn and a lot to know, and I was still a bit like, how am I ever going to remember all of this? And I qualify in just as you can probably tell, it has been a few days. Something came up and I couldn't get to finish the video. So yes, we're back though, and I'm here to finish the video, and I've caught up of where I was. So I was talking about how I cannot believe that it's just over a year until I qualify. 18 months and I'm qualified, and I'm scared. That is if they don't extend the course. I'm not really sure what's happening with that at the moment, but that's something that will be decided nearer the time, I think. I've spoken about 2 out of the 3 shifts, and like I said, the first 2 were incredible, and then this final shift was on Triage again. It was a night shift, and it was with my practice assessor, so I could get my final interview and get signed off for the placement. And it was really, really good shift, and nothing in particular happened to make me think it was a really good shift. It just felt, I don't know, like I belonged there, like I can do this, I am going to be a good midwife. Kind of put perspective against the whole rest of the placement, that it wasn't that bad at all, and I was just being a bit dramatic and a bit oversensitive. And it just made me feel so much better about the whole situation, about the whole placement, because I did start off a bit rocky with the self-isolation and everything. I worked with my practice assessor for the first couple of hours, and then a lady came in with a query loss, so my practice assessor went off and looked after that lady, and then I worked with the other midwife that was on that night, who again was lovely and just made me feel so comfortable and just like part of the team. Got me doing lots of different bits and pieces, you know, putting women on CTGs, going to women by myself, not by myself, because the way Triage worked, it was like a bay and then 3 beds, and then we had a side room as well, but obviously the midwife was there at the desk but could hear what I was saying with like the curtain pulled down, so was watching me and was with me. But yeah, it was just really good. Like I was talking to the women, getting her history, doing her OBS, doing her CTG, getting like a bit of background information on her pregnancy and her symptoms, and kind of giving a little bit of advice. There was one lady that was looking after her. I did the CTG, I did the OBS, I went and spoke to her, got her symptoms, got her like history and things like that, and then we needed to do a speculum on her, and my midwife said, yeah, you can do it, go for it. So she came in and helped me, because obviously it was my first speculum. I had seen a couple, but this was my first time doing it, so she got me one out to practice. So we like used my finger as a vagina and was like playing, just so I could get the hang of how to use the speculum and things like that. And then I went and did it, which was just really good learning opportunity. Obviously it's a really invasive procedure, it's not nice for the women, and I completely understand that. From a learning perspective and a learning opportunity, it was really, really cool to do. Being more hands-on is just so much better for me, and makes me feel like I am there for a reason, like I do want to do this. So yeah, I was a bit nervous beforehand, and my midwife said that's totally normal. It is totally normal. Before you do anything by yourself for the first time, it is nerve-wracking. So I was nervous, and my midwife said just go in there, act like you've done one before, say, oh, is it alright if we do a speculum, we've got to do this because of this. So I went in, explained to the woman why we've got to do this, and I just, yeah, did it. And my midwife was there to help me and said, if you are worried, if you do want me to step in at any point, just say, we had this phrase, I can't remember what the phrase was, but she said just say this and then I'll know that you want me to step in, and that'll be fine. But I did it, and we confirmed that it was in fact her waters breaking, and then I went and wrote about it in her notes, and then the doctor came to review her, and I handed her over to the doctor, and there we go. I went in with the doctor as well, just to see how the doctors work and what the doctors say and things, and it was just, yeah, it was a really good shift. And then there's a few other ladies that I looked after, obviously, but that was like the significant one that I was just like, I can do this. And then at the end of the shift, it got to about 6:30 in the morning, and I said to my midwife, look, I really need to be signed off for this placement. I need something written in my book as an interview. And she said, yeah, that's fine, I'll do it. I know you haven't had a lot of time on here, but from what I've seen, you're amazing, so yeah, I'll sign it off for you. So she signed it off and wrote these lovely things. I always get emotional when I'm doing the interviews because they always say nice things. They give not criticism, what's it called? Constructive criticism, obviously, things to improve on, things to develop in. But overall, they just say lovely things, and it just makes me like, oh, I think I 81% out of 100%, obviously, for the placement, which I was really, really happy with. And just, yeah. She said, there are things you need to improve on. There are obviously things that need developing, but as a second year, where you're supposed to be at the minute, you're doing amazing, and you just need more of it, more experience, so you can develop these skills. And I was like, oh, lovely. And then I rang my mum after the shift, and I was just ecstatic. I was like, do you know what? I take back everything I said last week. It was amazing. One thing I did want to say was about the antenatal ward. So most of my shifts were on Triage, as I've just explained, and I feel pretty good about Triage. I feel like I could go back in third year and kind of know what's going on. A lot more than I would on antenatal ward, to be honest. The 3 shifts I had on antenatal ward, we had no inductions. No, that's a lie. That is a lie. We did have inductions come in, but they weren't then inductions, if that makes sense. I'll explain. So yeah, what happens is they come in, you get a bit of a history, a bit like triage, a bit of a history, how their pregnancy's been, OBS, CTG, ask if they've had any PV loss, any abdo pain, if they've had lots of movements from baby, that sort of thing, and yeah, get them on the CTG, and then talk to them a bit about the induction process, make sure they're happy with it, make sure you've got their consent again, and then after that you normally do a VE, so just to check where they're at, whether they're ARMable, so artificial rupture of membrane, so if you can break their waters, which is the ideal situation. Sorry, it's wobbling, oh my god. Whether they want the pessary or the Prostin gel, or if they want the Cook's balloon catheter. All of the ladies that came in that my midwife was looking after and we were looking after one was ARMable, so my midwife did the VE because the woman was quite happy for me to do it, but she said, could the midwife do the VE, and then if she wanted the pessary or the gel, could I then do that? And I was, yeah, fine with that, that's fine, but she was ARMable, so didn't get to do the VE there. Which is totally fine, obviously it's the woman's choice, it's entirely up to her what she... I think one lady didn't turn up. One day I went to a risk meeting, which I won't bore you with the details, but it was quite interesting to go to, good experience, good learning opportunity, so I didn't get to see any inductions that day. And then one of them had a positive partisure, which is something that looks at chance of preterm labour. So she had a positive partisure, meant that she came in and stayed on the ward for a little bit and we were looking after her. I'm pretty sure that was it, to be honest. So yeah, I didn't really get much experience in the terms of inductions and the process of the actual. Got the experience of the before and kind of a little bit about the process, but not the actual, like, I would have loved to see a balloon induction. That would have been really interesting, and to be able to do one of those would have been really cool. But hey ho, luck of the draw. I'm sure we'll see. And that's it. That is my antenatal ward and triage experience. I don't feel like I've told you a lot about what actually happened on antenatal ward and triage. It's been more of a story time of my interesting few weeks. But yeah, so I have kind of told you what happens on antenatal ward, like the process, and I suppose the process in triage. One piece of advice my midwife did give me was be confident but not cocky. And she said, kind of, you've hit the nail on the head there. Like, you are confident, you're confident in what you know, but you're also confident in what you don't know. So what I mean by that is, if I don't know something, if I'm not comfortable doing something, I'm confident in speaking up about it and saying, actually, no, I don't feel happy doing that just yet. So that was really nice to hear. She said, like, you're not cocky. Some student midwives she's had previously are a bit cocky about what they... Like, if the midwife asks the student to go and do OBS, the student will be a bit like, really? Is there nothing more interesting than just doing OBS? Like, I can do OBS, I'm good at OBS. But I'm just like, everything is practice, just do everything, and yeah. If you get the opportunity, like the speculum, if you get the opportunity, if they ask, do you want to give it a go, do it. Because the midwife is always going to be there, like, she's not going to make you do anything that you're not comfortable with, but just give it a go. Like, they're not going to let you do any harm, like, they want you to learn, you're there to learn. So yeah, just take every opportunity. Answering the phone, my midwife also said I was really good at. She said some student midwives just avoid the phone at all costs and don't do it, whereas me, I'm just like, whatever. Don't get me wrong, I am nervous to answer the phone, like, it's not my favourite activity, but I know that it has to be done, otherwise it's just going to keep ringing, especially if the midwives are busy. Like, just answer the phone. I know it's nerve-wracking, but the more you do it, the more confident you'll get, and when you qualify, you're going to have to do it when you qualify, so you might as well get the experience in while you've got people there to ask questions. If a woman phones and you're not really sure what to say, or you're not really sure what to do, what advice to give, the midwives are there, whereas when you're qualified, you are the midwife, which is really scary, and that does scare me, but I'm just trying to take everything and practice everything while I'm a student and while I have people there to ask. So yeah, that's another piece of advice, I guess, and that's it. Again, sorry, it's probably a really long video, probably a really boring video, but hey ho. Next week is probably going to be my placement night routine I'm going to try, because I'm going back onto placement in a couple of days, so that'll be exciting. So yeah, probably that's going to be next week, but if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. So yeah, how it works on... No!
Okay.
For fuck's sake, that human being is pissing me off. I'm trying to film this video and he keeps interrupting me. He goes, Cash! I'm like, what? oh, nothing. I'm like, really?